Hey everyone, welcome to Pickleball and Beyond. My name's Ryan.
My name is Vino.
And today we have two paddles from A11N that we are looking at. We have the C7 carry and the XL carry. So Vino, two phenomenal budget paddles. Let's hear your thoughts on this.
I can't believe that this is a budget paddle. Let me start off
I remember
there.
when you handed it to me, I was like, oh yeah, it's another $200 paddle we're looking at today. I could not believe
I mean, overall, with what it comes.
Yeah, with a nice case.
$99 online. Then we have some codes as well.
Yeah.
So we are looking at around a $60 paddle, $65 paddle, like regular 99, let's say. But
and that's beyond, but I mean, your Vatic Pro and Huda are considered your budget paddles.
Yes. This is even lower than that.
It's even lower
and
than that.
Considering that, let's just look at the paddle itself. Construction, phenomenal.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a cheap paddle.
No, it comes with a really nice grip. A lot of
lovely
grip.
Cheap
paddles seem to
cheap.
always cheap out.
Yes,
on that.
and
These
like, you know, sometimes you even have better companies come up with like this ridge grip just to make it cheaper.
Yeah.
It's not. It's solid. This is not thermoformed. But overall, just the look, the feel, I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
The surface is very nice.
Yeah.
Very cleanable, very nice surface. Let's jump in and say, okay, where would we put these paddles?
Yep, so starting with the XL carry.
It's a 14 millimeter.
14 millimeter and obviously has that elongated shape. And I would definitely throw this into the power category. With the biggest thing being, we'll get more in depth on this, but the sweet spot's definitely narrower on it. And the shape definitely allows it to pack more of a punch than the C7, which I'm gonna throw right into the all-around paddle. I mean, this paddle in particular blew us away because it was phenomenal in all regards, right? So I gotta throw this right into the all-around paddle category.
So, just want to talk a little bit more of the shape because I think it plays to how it functions, right? It's a very thin paddle and very long. Like say, if you compare this with the J5, one of the longer paddles that we have, just almost there, right? The
XL carry is even a little thinner.
Yes, it's actually thinner than that, like the old, the V700 shapes, get what I mean? So it's kind of a thinner paddle.
Very narrow.
So yeah, we are definitely pushing this on the power side.
Yes.
And how would we categorize that paddle?
So the C7 carry, I'd still consider it an all-around paddle, but on the scale, oriented more in the control side because it is a very soft paddle.
You won't believe how soft it is, how much effort there is that it kind of helps in helping you control, absorb, shots and stuff like that. So let's start off here.
Yeah, with the C7, I want to start right with the control on this bad boy. So again, for those of you that have watched a lot of videos know that I played with the Ace Spade for a very long time for the reason being it is very soft but still punches a reasonable amount of power is how I like to phrase it. And that is exactly what reminded me of the C7, which is why for me, right when I picked up this paddle, I was like, this is even softer than my Spade. And it offers a ton of control. Just, I mean, phenomenal. I mean, anywhere from hitting those drop shots to in the kitchen, you can place it effortlessly.
And I found the sweet spot on this was fairly forgiving as well. Would you
it was a good sweet spot. I think some of the really wide bodies we've tested have an unbelievable sweet spot, which is why I didn't want to throw this into that control category.
I agree
but
with
mind
you.
you, for this shape, I think it has it is a very nice sweet spot, and it's just incredibly soft. And like I said, love it from the kitchen and hitting drops.
You can play shots really well.
Yeah, it has a really long dwell time again, which I always
16 millimeter. So just so people can compare, we're calling this a little bit more on the power side. How would you put control on this compared to that?
So, you know, pretty different styles of play here. That's the biggest downfall of the XL model here, is with that shape, you definitely get a smaller sweet spot, without a doubt. And that's just, you know, the nature of the shape. That's the downfall of it, right?
I mean, you want extra power, you have to give something, and that's, I think, what you're giving.
It really does show that, like, if you hit it in the center, it does feel, you know, has a very nice feel to it. But again, as soon as you start deviating off of that center point, it does fade away, unfortunately. I think comparing it to the J5 that you had up earlier, you played with it more, but I would say the sweet spot held up a little better on that. Granted, that doesn't have a phenomenal sweet spot either, but it seemed like Honolulu's held up even a little better.
Yes, I totally agree. So let's keep going out, and I think that's where this is going to start switching on pendulum side, right? In the center, in the transition, in the resets, again, how do you think this plays?
The C7, phenomenal.
Yes.
One of the best we've tried. I mean, again, when I first used this paddle, I was like, oh my goodness, I might need to consider using this myself.
I was really, again, I keep saying this, like when you come up with a fairly cheap paddle that performs just like, you know, your like your 130s paddle, 150 paddle, you really are taken back.
Yeah, I could not believe the price point.
Again, this is not a thermoform paddle.
Yep.
But it really has this well-rounded, balanced feel to it.
Yep.
Good control. As you go back, you're easily able to reset. This is a 14 millimeter.
Yep.
So you're going to struggle a little bit. Like if you play with both of these, this is just a little bit better.
Oh, definitely.
Yes,
You have that 2 millimeter thickness difference, and the shape combines to the C7 definitely is you know, multiple notches above in terms of control than the XL.
Yeah. How did you feel? Let's talk about power and pop.
Yep. So we'll start off with the C7 again. We'll go with the, starting with the pop of the paddle. So when the ball is driven at me, you know, I'm not applying it. How much pop did it have? And it was a super, you know, exactly what I personally am looking for, where it's not a crazy pop heavy paddle, right? I think it has to do with the nice dwell time on the paddle. It really eats it up, and it, again, going to that control part, it handles drives really well, and it does not feel crazy poppy. And going to the XL, it has, I remember it has a little, it definitely has more pop to it, quite a bit more than the C7. And I think it really, more than the shape even, I think it was the thickness, right? The ball just, it came off a lot hotter off the paddle.
And I think, just to add to what you mentioned, we just reviewed the Hood F. Viva Pro 1, the 14 millimeter and the 16 millimeter. And we were really struggling, like, to kind of differentiate between. For me, I felt, especially with the pop, with the resets, when you're right there, this played like a 14 millimeter.
Yeah, this one certainly played like a 14
Exactly. It felt like a 14 millimeter. So if you're looking for a 14 millimeter paddle, this really plays true to that.
Yeah, definitely offers more pop than the C7 by far.
Let's go to power.
Yep, going with the full power swings. The C7, I would categorize it, again, a paddle I played with so much is the Ace Spade. It's right around in that ballpark, right? Where it's like, it's just that typical good amount of power, gets the job done. If I had to throw a number out of 10, I'd say like, I don't know, I'd say like 6.5, maybe 7. I'll think about it more. But like, it generates, you know, that fair average amount of power, but that's, again, where the C7 shines is you have that beautiful blend of like, the control is even better on this paddle than the power, but it still retains a pretty good power aspect to it, which is exactly what I look for in a paddle, right? Super important to have that phenomenal control, but if I generate that power myself, it'll still put plenty of points away, right? Then going on, going into the XL, lots of power to speak of again.
I would say a couple of notches, like 1.5 notches above, you definitely can. With the caveat that when you play with both, this is a little bit more centric, right? You want to hit that center. So actually, when we were playing, some of the smashes that you hit with this were more effective because you placed it really well. You know what I mean? Yes, this generates just slightly more power, but that also, I think, goes on to speak, you don't need to have the most powerful paddle. Most of the people that we are talking to is like your 4.0 and under, right? I think you can achieve well with just
with
that.
The C7.
Exactly, because you're going to be able to control it. But this has a little bit more power.
Yeah, the last point I want to make in terms of the power is you mentioned it earlier that neither paddle is thermoform. So I think that ties into why there are, you know, that generation of paddles that did use that technology. A lot of those will hit harder, but again, these retain that nice control aspect, which, you know, it's a give and take thing, right? So if you are looking for that extra increment in power with that technology, that is something that these don't currently have. But just a good point to mention.
Yes, definitely. And let's touch on spin.
The spin, the surface on these is just beautiful.
It's beautiful. It really is.
I remember the C7 in particular, we were getting even more. Again, I think it really, you have to just give it to the dwell time on this paddle. I remember we were testing a handful of paddles to compare the spin to. And if I remember, this was the most spin we were getting out of
that set of paddles.
Out of a set of paddles we were testing, and it is just phenomenal. Not to say the XL doesn't. The XL does a great job still, but
you get a little bit. You definitely get a little bit more spin.
C7 was pretty ridiculous.
And like I think what I like about like a thicker paddle that has that dwell time. You're getting that slow spin.
Yeah.
When you are doing your cut shots, your rolls, you're getting that. When you're serving a little bit faster, you still get that spin.
Yeah.
Where I think on this, you're getting a little bit more of the faster spin, but it doesn't dwell as much, so you kind of feel the difference. But on its own, I think it does really well on spin.
Yes, it does.
Again, like, you know, you don't need 2000 RPM when you're playing. You know what I mean? These really do a good job. And going back to prices.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's exactly where I wanted to end, is going back to the price point. I remember when the Friday was released, I think even Pickleball Studio said that was their like best value paddle of the year, if I remember correctly. And for me, if you can get this for that 68, or possibly we can get it to $60, where the Friday is basically, this is, I mean, world's better. You're gonna get more power, more spin, far more
better
control.
Surface, way better surface. Yes.
Granted, so the XL, you're giving up more control than the Friday for a budget paddle comparison, but the C7, you get such a much better grip. You can clean the surface. It's not painted. It's true carbon fiber. I mean, we say it a lot about, you know, there's so many good paddles entering the market, but I mean, this is. The C7 is
it's a knock out of the park.
It is ridiculous that this paddle, they could have put this at $150 and I still would have been, or even $200, and I'd say this is a phenomenal paddle for the price. I'm serious.
No. Seriously, you're absolutely right. I would say like this really almost feels like a 130, 150 easily.
The C7
paddle.
Really blew us away.
And I would say this is not just a beginner paddle. Even an intermediate person.
Yeah, I told you, I considered playing with this paddle. I mean,
yes.
It's super well balanced. Both paddles are, but especially the C7. It is, I mean, it is just phenomenal. No other way to say it.
Again, we enjoyed playing with this. If you want to try it, please reach out to us, the southern Minnesota area. Please subscribe. We love hearing from you. Hopefully, we'll see you in another paddle review.